tired, so tired, overtired.
Hey there, it's been a while. It's good to see you all. This is Brett Terpstra. I'm here with Christina Warren. We took a winter break, a holiday break, and I've honestly forgotten how to do this. I think I hit all the right buttons. I think my microphone is connected, but honestly, I'm not sure at this point. Christina, how are you?
I'm good. I also I've been gone even longer than you've been gone because I've been traveling so much, and so, I didn't have to hit any of the buttons, but I'm also at that place where I'm like, "How do I podcast again?" Which is
Mhm.
such a
Yeah.
weird thing to say because, you know, this is a thing that both of us have been doing for most of our lives at this point, weirdly,
For a
that's
majority, yeah.
honestly, that's actually true at this point, so Um, even my real age, not the age that I give, the internet. Um, so yeah, it's good to hear from you and see you. Happy New Year, happy 2025.
Uh, Welcome to the year of Project 2025. I'm not excited about this year for many reasons, but yeah, I got my own personal reasons. Should we talk about my personal reasons?
Let's talk about your personal reasons. Look, it is Overtired. This is the show where we talk about what keeps us up at night or
Yeah,
does not keep us up. And that a big part of that is mental health corner. So Brett, please talk to us.
this has kept me up at night. Okay, so I think last time I we talked, I had like discovered dysautonomia, autonomic disorders, and it has become very apparent that I have some combination of those. I have POTS symptoms. You know what POTS is?
Yeah, that's it's an acronym for something, but I've
Yeah, I
heard
don't
about
know.
this.
Um,
Look, I've seen it on the subreddits and stuff. I don't
it
know.
basically means you pass out when you stand up.
Right.
And that has happened to me enough times that I've actually gotten really good at not passing out. But like for example, last night I could not stand up. I crawled from the couch to the bathroom on my hands and knees because every time I stood up, I started to black out.
Jeez.
It is taking a real toll on my ability to function, to even get around my own house. My office is in the basement, and there are days where I don't feel safe taking the stairs. I can't drive anymore. The numbness in my hands has gotten to the point where I can't type very well, and I can't even hold a guitar pick. Like I can't play
Oh,
guitar anymore. And I don't know. I My doctors are being very slow. I actually started a new primary care physician because my current one is just not curious enough to help me get through this. And
right.
I tested negative for the genetic form of EDS, but I clearly have the hypermobile form of EDS. So I have to
Right.
get testing for that. And I need a tilt table test. But before they'll give me the tilt table test for POTS, they have to get me to get a certain score on orthostatic blood pressure, which is when you get your blood pressure taken laying down and then
Right.
sitting up and then standing. And they want me to do 5 minutes at each level. And the thing is, my heart rate and my blood pressure don't shift enough to justify the testing, but I fucking pass out. I lose consciousness. Like it's a
Right.
real goddamn thing.
Right.
And I was wearing a heart monitor the last time I passed out, and it provided no useful data. Like my blood pressure goes up by about 20 BPM when I pass out, according to my Apple Watch. And 30 BPM is like the cutoff for what they expect. So I don't there are too many weird things going on, and I need a doctor who's truly curious about all of the things that are currently seriously disabling me. And I don't need to be told that it's not, medically provable. Um, I, I mean, seriously, I have so many symptoms and I don't know what's going on. And I need a diagnosis so I can at least get some disability insurance and be able to take medical leave if I need to from work without losing
Right.
my job. Um, and so mental health wise, I have been depressed for like a couple of months now
Yeah.
because like my brain refuses to accept that this could be permanent. It's such a terrifying thing to me that my brain goes into like denial and I just end up depressed. And I've been pretty much couch bound for quite a while now. I can get up and move around sometimes in the mornings, but by evening, I'm usually fucked. Um, and so I just stay on the couch and every once in a while, I feel good enough to go out for like a 30-minute walk with the dog, with a couple of like pauses. But like what happens if I go up a hill is my vision starts changing. It'll either be like flashing like glitch at the bottom of my vision, or my peripheral vision goes like 3D and blurry at the same time, and it's very disconcerting, and then I have to pause and I take a knee. I passed out in a ditch, maybe 3 weeks ago. I was walking the dog and I felt it coming on, so I, like, got off the road where there was no shoulder, and I got down into a snowy ditch, got down on my knees, and it didn't stop, so I laid down. I, like, wrapped the dog leash around my hand so she wouldn't run away, and I laid down. And I don't know if I fully lost consciousness, but the next thing I know, like Lulu is like sniffing at my face and I'm like planted in a ditch and I made it home. But this is my life now. It sucks.
Bro, that's like this is awful. This is awful. And your doctor has just been completely incurious
What
about
yeah,
what's been going on.
incurious and like it takes I get appointments and they're like a month out every time. And it takes like a month to find out he can't do anything, and then he schedules the next test that comes back, clear or negative. Like I've had so many tests run, and I'm seeing multiple specialists now, and it takes a month between tests, and no test has been useful yet. And so, like, this is just going to drag out for I don't know how long.
That I'm so sorry because it's just this is so frustrating. And this like came out of it seemed to come out of nowhere. Like it seemed like you were
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden, like you like texted our group chat that, you'd had to go to the ER and that you'd been passing out.
yeah,
And and that was like early November, I want to say.
yeah, something like that. I've lost track.
So
Did
this
I
is
tell you I
wild.
was in the hospital with pancreatitis?
Yes, yes, you told us
That
that,
was
and
yeah.
that was wild, and so that was happening as this was happening, and I didn't know, like, how related they were, like, at first, I was kinda
No, I
hoping
don't think they were related. You know what caused the pancreatitis?
what was that?
Wegovy.
Oh.
I was taking Wegovy for what turns out isn't okay. So this is multiple things. First of all, I gained all the weight that I'm carrying in my belly right now. I gained over about 6 weeks.
Mhm.
And it just like suddenly it went from 185 to like 230 and then just stopped. And I've just been at 230 for a couple years now. And it turns out that could be a symptom of dysautonomia,
Mhm.
rapid weight gain.
Yeah.
And with my hypermobile, EDS is a connective tissue disorder. It's why I can touch my thumb to my wrist. And it also affects your intestines. So I can go 20 days without taking a shit. Like my stomach just grows to adapt to it. And like I do, like I'm permanently constipated. So like every 20 days or so, they give me like bowel prep, the stuff they give you before a colonoscopy. Go lightly and it just clears you out. And okay, so I wanted to lose this embarrassing belly. So I started Wegovy and we've talked about that. And it didn't do shit other than make me stop drinking, which was, a good thing. And I stayed on it
Sure.
because I don't like drinking. It's not that fun. Um, and it actually, one of the rare side effects of Wegovy is pancreatitis. And I got myself for Christmas, I got uh, a bourbon advent calendar. So like every day there's this little bottle of bourbon. It's just a tasting amount. And it's designed to be split between two people. So that's all I was drinking was like a half a taster of bourbon. So they were pretty sure that alcohol wasn't the cause of my pancreatitis. And then I stopped the Wegovy, and now I'm able, when I'm not too dizzy, I can have a taster of bourbon and nothing happens. High fat foods, nothing happens. So it really was just the Wegovy, maybe in combination with a small amount of alcohol. But yeah, that landed me in the hospital for 3 days. And they gave me all kinds of drugs. And when I left, they asked me if I needed painkillers. And I was like, no, I feel fine. And I don't want to get like an opiate addiction on top of everything else that's going on.
Right.
So I said no, not realizing that the reason I felt fine was like 4 hours before they had given me Oxycontin. And so I get home, the oxy wears off and it hurts like hell. And I wished I had just gotten maybe a 3 day dose of oxycodone to go. But man, they had me on fentanyl and Dilaudid and oxy. I got all the painkillers. I got to try a smorgasbord and it wasn't even fun because everything just hurt. Have you ever been in the hospital? Have you ever had to ask
Yeah.
for help to go to the bathroom?
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate that.
It's awful. It's awful. I haven't had to be in the hospital much. But when I had my weird cellulitis thing where a blister
Mhm,
gave me blood poisoning and I had to be connected to an IV for like 48 hours straight. And then after that I had to continue to go in like every other day for hour-long, like, IV infusions,
mm,
to stave off the infection. That sucked because I had to be connected to the IV the whole time while I was in
mhm,
bed. So, like, that made, like, moving around and, like, going to the bathroom
mhm.
and stuff, I didn't have to use a bedpan, thank God, but, like, I had to, like, have assistance,
Yeah,
to even, like, go to the
yeah.
bathroom.
Well, they have to, like, unplug all this shit and
Yep,
then give you the rolling IV
yep,
cart, and you gotta, like, oh, it's such a pain in the butt. That's the reason, like, I could have used another day in the hospital, but I was so tired, and they gave me, I don't know what you call it, it's not a bedpan. I didn't have to do that. I just wanted to pee in
mhm.
because, like, at least for a guy, I don't know
For a
if it
guy, you
works for a
can.
girl.
It does not.
But I could just roll on my side and feel it. Was so
Yeah,
embarrassing though to put a bottle of your own piss on the
yeah,
table and let
yeah.
someone else take
Can't
care
even
of it.
imagine. Yeah, totally. But at the same time, it's like that's, unfortunately, like, a thing a lot of people have to do, but yeah, but we don't like to think about those things, and it reminds us of just, I mean, like, both, like, like, aging is such a I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with aging, like, when I was in the hospital, I was 19 years old, but,
Yeah.
um, like, but it reminds me, like, as we get older and whatnot, like, it's like, the circle of life is so fucked up because you do just become, like, helpless like a child again, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
and
A
it's but
regression.
totally, right? But, like and then a thing like this is like, yeah, like, you at least as a guy, they can give you something so that you can, relieve yourself without having to do all that. Women, no. I mean, maybe I think they make, like, these, like I've seen them at concerts where, like, people have, like, these, like, pipe things that you can put in your pants to kind of, like, create, like,
Mhm.
urethra or whatever.
Yeah.
Um
Go Girls or something.
Something like that, right? And I've never used one because 'cause I've always been like, "If you don't get that just right, you're just gonna have pee all over yourself."
Right.
And then that's worse. That's way worse than waiting in line for the ladies' room or porta potty or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I can see that.
that's significantly worse, like, right? Like, if I have to choose my battles there, like, I'm like, actually would rather not have that." So, but, I don't know, maybe they have things like that, but I don't think so. But yeah, at least but that sucks, yeah. Having to ask for help sucks, having to be just kind of stuck there and be, and then you feel guilty because somebody's having to help you, but then at the same time, it sucks because you're on somebody else's schedule, like,
Sure.
if you need something, like, you can't get it immediately, and
So every time I hit my button, there was someone there within a minute.
wow.
And yeah, they didn't have hospital rooms available. All they had within a half hour of my home all they had was ICU rooms. So I was in an ICU, even though I really could have gotten away with just being in like a individual hospital room. But because I was in ICU, like I had like three nurses and there was always someone there. And nurses are heroes. I love nurses now. I had my first nurse when I was there. They put me on IV and nothing by mouth. No
Wow.
water, no ice chips, no soup, like nothing for the first 24 hours. And I was dying. And my first nurse would like sneak me just a couple ice chips, which, when you haven't had water in your mouth for 8 hours, a couple ice chips are like manna from heaven. So I developed a liking for him, and then every nurse after that, they got continually better and better, and I love them. And I'll talk to one of them after I was out. They came into the yarn store, and they said I was very a gentleman and very kind and a good patient. So that made me feel good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So anyway, Christina, how are you?
I'm significantly better than you are. I have I was traveling like a mofo, and so I missed several recordings, and then we put other recordings off. So I had like an insanely busy travel schedule. But I had a nice holiday. So yeah, so just like for kind of a recap, I was in like so this covers end of October through middle of December. I was in San Francisco. Then I was home for 4 or 5 days. Then I was in then I was in St. Louis for a week. No, it's not St. Louis, Salt Lake City for a week. Then I was home for 2 days. Then I was in Chicago for a week. Then I went. Then I was home for a day and a half. Then I went to Atlanta for Thanksgiving. Then I left from Atlanta to go to Seoul. I lost my passport in between that time, or while I was in Atlanta, and that delayed my Seoul trip by a day and a half. That same day and a half, they declared martial law in Seoul, so it was probably a good thing. I can go through that if anybody wants to hear the timeline because it was kinda wild. Then I was, back for 18 hours, not even no, 13 hours. And then I went to Vancouver for Taylor Swift, for the final Taylor Swift Eras Tour. Then I was home for, like, 2 days, and then I went to Rome, and then I was home for, like, 2 or 3 days, and then I went back to Atlanta for, Christmas. And then, I went to Jacksonville for a few days, and then came back to Atlanta, and then got back into Seattle, on, like, 2 o'clock in the morning, Friday morning.
I
So,
can't believe you can remember all of that in order. After that much travel, I would just forget like where I had even been. What was in Salt Lake City?
that was where, and that's where I saw your colleagues. That was,
Yeah.
KubeCon. Yeah, so I got
Okay.
to
Yeah.
see Aaron and Victor
I
there, which
thought
was
maybe
awesome.
there were multiple conferences in Salt Lake City, and I had never heard of Salt Lake City even being a conference
Oh,
destination. Is that
yeah,
common?
it is because they have a really
Oh,
nice, conference center in downtown Salt Lake. It's actually beautiful, and it's nice,
can
and
you
I
get
think it's what
coffee there?
you can. You
Okay.
can get coffee, you can get whiskey, like, it down Salt Lake City, like, look, Utah is obviously Mormon country. Salt Lake, from what I understand, is much more, like, open. Like, I went to the movies when I was there, like, on my birthday, and I went to, like, this movie theater bar, and, there was even, like, a fight, like, after we got out, like, between, like, some of the patrons and, like, the bar staff was, like, having to get involved, and, like, they were, like, not having it. I was like, "Holy shit, way to go, Salt Lake." Um but it was like a good old fashioned like bar, like, and but also movie theater kinda thing, so I saw, it was fine. It was, this horror movie with, Hugh Grant and, one of the actresses from Yellow Jackets, and it was, I think the film thought that it was smarter than it was, but it was, in terms of, like, what it was doing, Heretic is what it was called. You actually, I think, would enjoy it. Because it asked a lot of questions about religion. And that's the part where, like, I think the film thinks it's smarter than it was, and I'm like, "Okay, somebody went to, like took, like, 1 or 2, like, religion classes in college and then, like, got very excited." But for a horror film, especially an A24 horror film, and A24 films are great, I'm not knocking them at all. I pay for their membership or whatever, but, like, their fan club. But, like, you don't expect large chunks of the movie to be dialogue about, like, genuinely, like, asking questions about, like, the Mormon faith, which again, that was ironic since we were in Utah.
Sure.
But also like asking other questions about kind of like the Bible and like biblical accuracy and like all kinds of things like that. Like there was interesting, like, that's not the sort of thing you expect for a film like that.
No,
Anyway, but, for kind of a psychological thriller, but, um, yeah, I saw that, like, at a bar in Utah, which, bar/movie theater in Utah, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I've been to a number of conferences in Salt Lake City, and,
that's
it's
interesting.
yeah, it's a very pretty area. Like, I understand totally why people live there. Like, people are nice. Like, it's one of those things where, like, you feel like, or at least I feel, like, weird. I'm like, "Man, I totally understand the appeal of this." I still don't think I could stomach it because of some of the other political things, but I totally understand, like, why people are completely content to just be, that part of the West because it
Sure.
is gorgeous. And then, yeah, people are nice and things are affordable. And you're like, huh, I get it.
Yeah.
I imagine Minnesota's like that too. It's just,
Yeah.
colder.
Yeah. Yep. It's -5 right now with a
Wow.
feels like temperature of -9.
Damn.
So the dog is not getting walked right now.
No,
It
no, I
might
would
warm
say
up a
not.
little.
I was gonna say because the dog tries to pee, the pee will be like frozen like
Hmm.
midstream.
Yeah, usually when she takes her shit, it just by the time it hits the ground, it's just like rock solid. It's so funny. But her paws, like say she doesn't like love walking on
Oh yeah,
sub-zero pavement.
of course.
I found this stuff called Musher's Secret, I think. It's like a wax you can put on your dog's paws. She doesn't do boots. Like
I was
she
gonna
just
say,
refuses to move if you put boots on her.
yeah, I was gonna say so
Um,
some dogs hate them.
yeah, Emma didn't she walked funny when she had them on, like, her legs, like, flailed to the side, but she didn't seem to mind them. And once she got going, like, she would run through the snow and everything with them. Lulu just, like she gets out the door, she'll go about 4 feet, and then she just plants her feet hard, and she's like, "We're not doing this." So, um, speaking of movies, did you have more I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, 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 that's okay. That's okay.
I watched all of the Oceans 11, 12, 13 movies,
Yeah.
and
And did you
11
watch
was
Ocean's
pretty
8?
fun. Not yet.
Okay,
And I was
because
gonna
that's
go
actually a
back
good
and
one.
I was gonna watch the 1960s Oceans,
Right.
but I haven't done that yet. So I just watched 11, 12, and 13. 11 was kind of fun. I've seen them all before, and I
Mhm.
remembered them being fun. 12? What the fuck?
I
12
know.
was bad.
12 was bad.
12
12
was
was
a
bad.
money grab. They just
Yes, it
they brought
was.
everyone back together to, like, try to capitalize on the success of Ocean's 11. Ocean's 13 was big budget. It was kind of fun, but it was not as clever as I remember it being. Like, so my favorite device in heist movies is when they don't give you any insight into so, like, you'll get to a point in the heist where it'll feel like it's gone wrong and, "Oh, shit, everything's fucked. All this like, we were really excited, and now it's failing." And then you find out that they planned, at least some of them planned for this failure on purpose. They shorted it, and, like, they had, like, a secondary heist that was dependent on the first one failing, and, like, it's formulaic, but, like, I enjoy that, and Oceans just didn't really have that. Um, kinda with on 13, but anyway, I'm I gotta find I know there are heist movies I loved. Maybe, Now You See Me, was that good?
That was okay. So, I think the original Oceans is one of the best. Not
Yeah?
the not the one from the '60s. That one's whatever. But I think that, the original, like, the 2001 Ocean's 11, I think is really, really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Um,
That one was good.
and I think that, actually, I think Ocean's 8, I love. I
Okay.
really, really like that. Like, I think
I
that is
have
better than
seen it. I
I think
have
that is
seen it,
better
but
I
not
think that's better than
recently.
12 and 13. And I agree with you though that the 13 is better than 12. 12 was just a money grab and like they were
Well,
all so famous at that point and they were like it was impossible to get their schedules together. It was like, the Netflix season of Arrested Development when like they basically couldn't
right?
get anybody together because they were all too, busy.
I watched
Um
I watched Arrested Development all the way through, and I was pretty excited, like, season 2, season 3, I was like, "I forgot how great this show is," and then I got to season 5, and I was just I
Yeah,
didn't even finish it.
I think when they re-edited season 4 to be more chronological, I think it was better. But yeah, season 5 was, mixed. Okay, but I would say I'm trying to think good heist movies. Snatch,
Oh, yeah,
um,
Snatch.
Lock
Oh
Lock
my
Lock,
god.
Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels,
Yeah, all these
both
Guy Ritchie
Guy Ritchie
movies.
films
Yes.
are really good. I think Ronin is pretty good.
Yeah.
I like both Italian Jobs with the original, but I
Yep,
actually kind of
yep,
like the remake, honestly. I think
yep.
that with Charlize Theron and Mark
With
Wahlberg,
the way cooler minis, yeah.
way cooler minis, and that's funny. That was, like, Charlize's first, like, show at being like, "Oh, yeah," like, you understand how she can do Mad Max when you see the Italian
Mhm.
Job because you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay," and then she won the Oscar that year, so, like, nobody even remembers that she was in that. I personally love the Mission Impossible series, all of
Yeah,
them.
those are good.
I love them all, but the original is obviously one of the best, but, like, I love them all and just I
I
personally,
never
like,
saw Ghost Protocol.
it's pretty good. It's actually pretty good, and the thing
I
is,
think
like,
I saw it over someone's shoulder on an airplane and didn't really follow it, so, yeah, I should give that a chance.
yeah, I mean, look, he's a weirdo, but he is genuinely one of the best actors we will ever have in terms of entertainment and, like, what he does to his body and everything else.
Mhm.
Like, I love Tom Cruise. Um, we've talked about this one before, Sneakers.
Yeah.
I consider that a heist movie.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because like, they are
Yeah.
kinda pull off a job. So,
Yep.
like, I know that's
Yep.
not, like, a typical thing, but I consider that there. Trying to think what else. I think I
That's
mentioned
already a
Ronin.
good
Ronin,
list.
Heat, um, you know, there um David Mamet, Spanish Prisoner.
I haven't seen that.
That's really, really good. It's one of Grant's favorites.
Alright.
It's based on a play that he also wrote, and it's kind of a great, story, just kind of like, way the heist works, but also kind of the double-ended thing at it. I think that one is, they even had, like, a King of the Hill parody of it, which was really good.
Cool.
Um, one of my oh, and then my all-time favorite, I would say, honestly, even, like, if we're gonna talk about, like, even, like, the Steven Soderbergh films is Out of Sight.
I have not seen that one either.
That one
Alright.
is amazing. And it again, it has heist elements, it's also other things, but that is about, kind of a career criminal who, gets popped in a certain way, and he's gonna be driven back to, exported back and whatnot, and he winds up kind of breaking out of jail and, getting, caught by a Florida, marshal or whatever, who's played by Jennifer Lopez. It's George Clooney who's the criminal, and then they kind of are very attracted to one another, and it's great. They have this scene in the
Cool.
trunk of a car, which is, like, one of the best scenes in cinema. So,
Cool. Yeah, you've given me I know exactly what I'm doing for the rest of the evenings that I'm home. Um, so I gotta watch Snatch again. I
yeah,
miss
Snatch is
Snatch.
so good. Snatch is
Dags.
so good.
Fucking Dags. Um, yeah. Okay, so can we talk about AI for a second?
Absolutely.
I feel like you know more than I do, but, okay, so we'll start with Apple Intelligence. I feel like someday it'll be useful.
Maybe.
Like, it has, like, a kernel of usefulness, but everything it does these summaries for me of, like, messages and calendar invites, and they're not terribly useful. Like, I still have to go in and read everything, so what was the point?
Right.
And when it suggests in messages, when it suggests what I should type, it's always formal, and I am rarely formal when I'm
Right.
texting. I
Yeah, it
don't
totally doesn't
text with
know
people. Well,
like, your way of yeah.
I don't text with people I need to be polite with. Those are people I
Right.
email with or Slack. And like at work in Slack, it's great. But it doesn't do anything there. It only does it in messages where it'll be like, thank you for this information. I will be sure to put it to use. Whereas normally I would just be like, thanks, exclamation point. And it doesn't learn my voice. It doesn't do anything useful really. So is there something I'm missing? What do you think of Apple Intelligence?
No, I don't think you're missing anything, and I think that I think you kind of, uh, touched in on, like, one of my problems I kind of have with it is that, maybe it'll be useful at some point. Um, they obviously have very smart people, who work on those things. I'm not trying to disparage any of them. However, I think that the other like, for me, the only useful part of Apple Intelligence is the fact that I can attach it to my ChatGPT account.
Hmm.
Like, honestly, like having like the more
Yeah.
native ChatGPT integration,
Hmm.
and I pay for ChatGPT so I can like log in
Yep.
and
Me too.
having access to that, like that I think is really useful.
Yeah.
Anything else, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm annoyed by the summaries. I'm annoyed
Hmm.
by the
Yeah. I
suggestions for
should
the
just
writing stuff
turn
that's
them
not there.
off.
Yeah, I need to just turn them off too, right? Like I'm annoyed by all of that stuff. And I think that there are some things like I do feel like the ability to record phone calls and like have that saved in your notes and like transcripts and things like that's really cool.
Yeah.
But like, that's as much, because like the notes team and the people who did that, did good work. Like I don't necessarily like I don't know how much of that we can like necessarily ascribe to like Apple Intelligence. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, and
Like,
I do appreciate that it has more inherent privacy measures than using OpenAI. Um,
I
just
mean, I guess.
I feel like that's also its Achilles heel.
Yeah,
Um,
it is. And I but it's also one of those things is like with, OpenAI, or if you use like an Azure OpenAI key or other things, like there are ways around that where you can limit some of the stuff that they can do. For
sure.
the free versions, not so much, but like if you pay for it, like in all these services, this is true for Anthropic, this is true. I'm pretty sure for Google, although I don't know definitively. Like I think that there are typically ways where like if you're paying for those things, you can turn off some of the stuff that they can do.
Yeah.
And I feel like the privacy things, I think that they were smart to probably highlight those, precautions. At the same time, this has been historically like one of the reasons why like Apple's previous like what do they call it? Machine learning stuff, that's what they used to always call everything, like sucked in comparison to everybody else's, right? Like Google's, photography AI has been better than Apple's for years and years because they will train on a much larger data set. Now, whether that even actually impacts user privacy, I don't know. Um, like if we're going to be real about it, like, do I love that, like my stuff has been used for these things? No, but like if you're not using it in the results in any way, if my information can't be identified, then I would kind of rather have you do a better job of removing objects from my photos or correcting things a certain way. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just being honest. Like I don't know. I and
Well,
I don't really know how much I trust any of these companies to really give a shit about my privacy at all anyway, like, no matter
I'm
what they
gonna
say.
I'm gonna come back to AI in a second, but this story about the soldier who blew up the Tesla truck,
Yeah.
in the story, if you read it, the officials in charge of the investigation talk about this mountain of data that they have left to go through. And a lot of it is supplied by Tesla as far as his movements and activities.
Mhm.
And then they have all of this data that they've collected from Facebook. I don't remember where all, but when I read it, I was like, oh my God, like, I don't think he knew how much data he left out there. And it really, it speaks to this surveillance state that we've all kind of tacitly allowed.
Yeah, we've all allowed it, right? And then, like, Apple, like, I mean, I realize that granted, they are literally just doing this as like a, whatchamacallit, like a settling a nuisance lawsuit thing, but like they're gonna pay $95 million or whatever, so we'll all maybe get $20, for, having Siri listen to you, even when it wasn't supposed to be on. And so people are wrongly reporting that as like, "Oh, we all said that your phone was listening to you, but it turns out it actually was, and everybody said we were crazy. It turns out it really was listening to what you were saying." No, it wasn't. They're just settling the nuisance lawsuit because it's $95 million and they make more than that in the time that it's taken me
Mhm.
to say this sentence.
Oh,
Um, but
I mean,
um, but like, but that just goes to show is like obviously all this information is collected somewhere and we're using these things. And yeah, I was having this conversation New Year's with some of my parents' friends. It was like, yeah, like the phone company knows every call you've made. Now, is NSA or anybody else like able to like capture the packets of that call? Probably. Are they able to decrypt them? Maybe, maybe not. Will they take the time to go through them? I mean, for most people, probably not. If you're a very specific type of person, then maybe, right? But it's like,
right.
yeah, like your information, like everything we do is surveilled. And you're right. We've all agreed to this. And it's kind of it's terrifying, but but at the same time, I get almost like overwhelmed when I think about that. And then my default response is just to be like, okay, well, I can't control this. It's too far gone. fuck it. At least I should take advantage of like the useful services.
I've switched over to using Signal for most of my communications because I have uh for a long time I called my like in my teens and 20s I considered myself an anarchist.
Right.
I did a lot of reading and intellectualizing around anarchism. And I named Emma after Emma Goldman, and like all my tattoos are anarchist tattoos. But then I kind of shifted and I was like, maybe communist slash socialist. I can see benefits to both philosophies, but recently I've come back around to anarchism. And I am pretty open about that on Facebook when I shouldn't be. But I have switched like most of my communications to as secure a channel as I can find, because I don't think anarchists are going to fare well over the next, decade.
Yeah,
So
probably not. Yeah, no, I mean,
I think capitalism is eating itself. It could take a while, but um, something comes next. I don't want to get imprisoned before before the fall.
right.
Anyway, I don't want to get into that. Let's get back to AI. I gotta say, and I've mentioned this before, but Copilot is just awesome.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Um, there's there's a new app that I just found out about yesterday, and it has a competing. It
Cursor.
like basically yes, yes, and it has
It's
some
good.
benefits, but
It's good.
I still like I'm just really used to Copilot, and like this morning I wrote a project and published it in Ruby, which is where I wrote it originally. And then with Copilot, I was able to publish
Translate.
working examples with tests in Go, Rust, Python, and Swift.
That's awesome.
And like I got it filled in the basics. There are a lot of edits necessary, but I would not have gotten it all done in an hour
No,
without Copilot. And it wrote the test for me. That's my favorite
the
thing
test,
is
that's my favorite thing.
I can
Add
just
test.
write code and be like, add tests for this, and it writes the test in whatever testing platform you're using, and it writes thorough tests.
Yeah, they're really
And
good. And
oh, it's so nice.
one of the things I also love to do with it is, and I'll plug right now, we recently put out a GitHub Copilot cookbook, which kind of has like example prompts and kind of ideas and suggestions for things you can do with Copilot. So, because I think one of the things we've heard from people is they don't know how to get started, and once you use
Is
it, you
that
realize how
free?
much you can do it. It is. Oh, actually, Copilot is free now. Well, there's a free version.
Is it?
Uh, yeah, they just we just released it a couple weeks ago, but it's basically yeah, Copilot Chat Cookbook. I'll put this in our notes. But we just released a new a free version of Copilot. So the Copilot that's $10 a month for individuals used to be Copilot for individuals, and then it's $20 for business. Is and then the enterprise tier I think is 30 is now Copilot Pro, and so that if you pay for it, nothing changes. But we do have a free version now, which will give you 2,000 code completions a month and 50 chat conversations a month. And you can still use it with extensions, and you can use it on GitHub.com and in VS Code, and you can even use it in like things like because we now have an Xcode extension, and you can use it in other platforms too. But if you want to do, obviously like 2,000 code completions is pretty decent, but like the chat, which is what I use it with all the time, you can blow through that pretty quickly. So if you want unlimited and if you want to be able to do, other stuff and be able to, change some other things, then that's, kind of the upsell. But that's something we launched right before the end of the year. And that's pretty cool. But, um,
I don't remember why, but I've been getting Copilot for free, and now I get
probably
Pro
because,
for free.
yeah, because you're an open source contributor.
Oh, cool,
So
cool.
so 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 you get it for free, which is awesome. But one of the cool things that we launched at the end of October, and I don't know if you've played with this or not, is that you can do model switching. And so by default, it's GPT 4.0, but
Oh
you
yeah,
can,
yeah.
if you're on Pro, you can use the O1 Preview, O1 Mini. But the one that I think is best right now, you can also use Gemini Pro, which is really good and has some good features. But the one I personally think is my favorite right now that I've been using is the Claude 3.5 Sonnet. because I think
Oh, I
for
haven't
coding
tried that.
stuff, Claude's Claude's thing I think is better than GPT 4.0. And it's really fast, whereas O1, it still takes some time to do certain things. And so I encourage you to play around with that because Copilot is already great. And this was one of the things that you could do with Cursor, which is really cool, was that they supported multiple models. Copilot now does too. One of the other features that we launched a couple weeks ago is multi-edit in VS Code, so you can edit multiple files at once. And so you can basically give, like, I think it's up to 5 like files that you can kind of tell Copilot, okay, I need to create a new component and then update these files, or I need to make changes, and so it can make changes across your project rather than having to go through one at a time, which is really cool.
That is cool. All
So
right, so I forgot we had a sponsor, and
yeah,
that's why we're recording this
that is why we're
weekend.
recording.
Uh, so a big thanks to 1Password once again for sponsoring this show. Imagine your company's security like the quad of a college campus. There are nice brick paths between the buildings. Those are the company-owned devices, IT-approved apps, and managed employee identities. And then there are the paths that people actually use, the shortcuts worn through the grass that are the straightest path from point A to point B. Those are unmanaged devices, shadow IT apps, and non employee identities like contractors. Most security tools only work on those happy brick paths, but a lot of security problems take place on the shortcuts. 1Password Extended Access Management is the first security solution that brings all of those unmanaged devices, apps, and identities under your control. It ensures that every user credential is strong and protected, every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. 1Password Extended Access Management solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM can't. It's security for the way we work today. And now it's generally available to companies with Okta and Microsoft Entra, and in beta for Google Workspace customers. Check it out at onepassword.com/overtired. That's 1Password with a one, number one, onepassword.com/overtired. Thanks, 1Password. Okay. So I think I wanted to tell you, you mentioned as a pick a long time ago, I think it's pronounced Mies.
Mies, yeah.
I have switched from ASCF to Mies, and it is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, Mies
And
is freaking awesome.
it's seamless to switch. Like it reads
Mhm.
your .tool versions files, and if you're in a fresh project, it creates the mies.toml file.
Yep.
Um, but it'll read the tool versions files, and it's so smooth. And the mies execute command is way better than like RVM wrappers and ASDF exec. It's it's awesome. I have so many things running. I have so many system background services that use different versions of Ruby and Node,
Yep.
and
Same.
I can seamlessly execute them without worrying about sourcing an environment and everything beforehand. I'm very impressed. But
Yeah, I love it. I'm such a big fan, and there's so many plugins and different things you can use it with. And like you said, like it works with all the ASDF plugins. It works with VFox plugins, which I've never used VFox, but apparently those work on Windows. So for people who are coming from those things, that's one of the things I like about it as well. Like it's cross-platform, so it'll work on your Mac or on Linux or on
well,
Windows,
dude,
which is really
and
nice.
you type mies use node at 16,
Yep.
and you don't have it installed before it just installs it without
Yep.
asking. Like
Does not it just does it, and it's great, and it out of the box, like, it comes with, support for Bun and Dino and, Node and Go and Python and
usage.
Ruby. Apparently, there's now experimental support for both Rust and Swift, which I didn't
Mm.
realize. That must be
Oh
new.
yeah, I installed a Rust compiler this morning.
Nice. So, like, that's really awesome, and, like, the lead dev, JDX, like, he's a freaking machine. Like, he reminds me of you a little bit with, like, how, like, much he like, how quickly he's able to, like, work on all this stuff, and I really like how it's designed. So, yeah, consider this like a just a kind of a redux of a, pick of the week, gratitude
Mhm.
because, like, yeah, Mies is awesome. If you need to, manage lots of libraries, like version management is it sucks that we have to do it, but I'm glad that we have like tools like this, to work.
It's a cost of doing business.
It is.
Speaking of AI, my rabbi, Eric Linder, had an idea for an app that he wanted to exist. He is not a coder. He knows no languages. He had never opened Xcode before. And with ChatGPT, he built an iPhone app
That's
in like
awesome.
2 days.
That's
Like
amazing.
it's on test flight now, and it's pretty good with like Swift UI, and like every time he wants to add a feature, he just tells ChatGPT, "I want to make it do this," and he's really good with prompts. Like
Yeah.
he's studied prompting. He doesn't know coding, but he knows
He knows
ChatGPT.
he knows Chat well,
Um,
with that which honestly I think is gonna become for a lot of people, that's gonna become, like, the new thing, like, figuring out how to the right way to talk to these systems is going to
mhm.
be, in some ways, as important as, like, you know, what syntax used to be, like, you know what I mean? Like, not to say that it's gonna replace everything, but, like, I think that's gonna become a very important core
Yeah.
competency for a lot of people, like, developers
Well,
and non-developers alike.
and I do it I am of the opinion that you should at least understand algorithms
Yeah,
and logic and maybe a little bit of Python to actually have like some idea what the code does.
sure.
But he doesn't have any of that. And I keep suggesting maybe he should, look at the code it's writing and learn like like reverse engineer
Mhm.
what it's doing so you actually learn in the process. But
Sure.
he is too impatient for that. And anyway, like he debugs using ChatGPT, which
That's
I
actually a great
I
way to
debug
debug.
using Copilot.
Yeah.
Um, like something doesn't work, I get an error in the console, I just paste the error into the chat
Yep.
and it tells me exactly why I'm getting that error. And
Totally.
it's a huge time saver. So I get that. But also I I know what the code does.
Right, right, which
Being
is
I'm
good.
being a gatekeeper now. I don't want to be a gatekeeper. He
Well,
made a fucking app and it
I was
works.
well, this is what I was gonna say, right? Because I think there are 2 ways to go about this. I think that there is the reality that I think that if you are as your job, at least as things exist right now in 2025, like January 2025 as we're recording this. I'm saying this so that if somebody is somehow listening 5 years in the future and all of this is irrelevant, like, I'm saying this for this point in time because I recognize this could change. I think that in 2025, if you are going to be as your job a software developer. Like this is what you do. You're committing code that other people are going to be using and maybe relying on and things like that. I feel like, yeah, it is really important for you to know what it does and how it works from if for no other reason than from like a cover your ass policy, right?
Mhm.
Like, and you need to know what you're doing. But I also feel like there's a place for people like your rabbi who just wants an app that once needs to exist. He's not looking to make this into a whole thing. He's not looking at wanting to like have a business around this. He's not wanting to like try to like take other people's information or whatnot. Like,
He is though. He
okay,
said,
well, all right, well,
if this works out, I'm gonna quit my Jew job." That's what he said.
okay, well, Rabbi, if it works out, then and it probably won't because getting breaking
Sure.
the appium is very difficult, but it
Yeah.
probably won't. But if it does, then I highly encourage you at that point to very seriously start learning fundamentals about what things do, or at least hiring someone who can check your AI generated code for you. Regardless, if your main thing is not like to again, like you're not like taking people's information, you're not doing other stuff with it, like you're creating kind of your own personal tools and whatnot or even as a learning, mechanism. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with using tools like this, and I think people can build great hobby apps and stuff like that. And if I'm being completely candid, we don't know the credentials or the qualifications of the people who write code that are in our apps that we run right now.
Sure.
We don't. And so who knows? Like they could be copy and pasting samples and like just getting lucky with stuff or, could be cobbled together from like, like 5 different people. Like I don't know. So, I agree with you like that it's, you know, best if you know what it's doing. But I also do feel like we're going to reach a certain point where it's going to matter less and less because the code might become abstracted to a certain point where it's like, okay, now we're just learning how to kind of manage these systems. And if we need to go through, like security reviews and things like that, fine. But like, it's kind of like the number of people who know assembly languages now is very small. And you're not thought of as less of a programmer because you don't know assembly.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know how long it'll be until other things change, but I think that's amazing that he, in 2 days, was able to build an app that he has in test flight that he's never opened Xcode before. Like, that to me is pretty incredible.
Yeah, for sure. I had to learn assembler when I was in high school, maybe middle school. I don't remember. I wanted to hack, I think, something into Duke Nukem, and like you could disassemble the byte structure and inject strings into shareware games. So I learned a bit, but I certainly don't remember any of it and don't consider it a necessary skill.
Right.
Um, so should we do a gratitude?
We should do a gratitude.
I have a super cool one.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Okay, so the app is called In Your Face, and it is available on SetApp. I don't know what it costs if you're not on SetApp, but I miss a lot of meetings because the calendar notification will come up 15 minutes till this meeting. And I'll think 15 minutes, I can wrap up this code I'm working on. And I'll get absorbed in the code. I'll miss any future notifications and I'll totally forget. And I'll show up for the meeting half an hour late. And everyone will be like, yep, there's Brett again. And I needed a way to stop doing this. In Your Face pops up a notification that takes up your whole screen. Like it covers your screen and says, it is time for this meeting. And you can click a button to join the meeting. So I have it set to 1 minute before the meeting. It will literally make it impossible for me to work on whatever I'm working on and force me to go to the meeting. And it is a brilliant idea for someone like me who can easily forget to show up for things that I totally intended to be at. For my,
Yeah.
like a one-on-one with my manager,
Mhm.
like get a Slack message, an
Where
hour
are
later.
you?
Hey, are you coming?
No, I love
So
this
that's
because
my pick.
I run into this too, where I have like it in Fantastical and it'll come up and like I'll know that I have it. I might get the alert, and then for whatever reason, like I just don't see it, and then I just like space, and then I'm like, oh shit, I thought I was going to get another notification again.
Right.
So that's awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
In Your Face. I love the name because like that's exactly what you need
It
sometimes.
is what it is.
And like honestly, it says it on the tin. I appreciate that.
It's like a
My
rail drink.
Totally, totally. So my pick is going to be an old favorite, and we've talked about this one before, but the new version just came out, and that is Acorn.
Oh yeah.
And Acorn 8 it just came out like I think like 2 weeks ago. And it's on sale right now, I believe, for 19.99. Whether you're like a new or an existing customer, this is the first. Let me see when Acorn 7 came out. Let me look through my one password history here. Um, it- it's funny because I look at old versions. I have like version 1, 3,
Uh,
4, 5, 6,
I just
7, 8.
every time I get a new license, I put the old license into the note and just update the version of the one password so I don't have that history. I just have I have all my previous licenses, but I can't see the dates like they
Right,
can.
right. Yeah, this is just the way I've always like managed my software licenses. I think I just have all the various versions, but um, yeah, it looks like I bought version 7 in 2021. So it's
Wow.
been in April. And so it's been, close to 4 years, 3.5 years and change since it's had a major version. $20, it's a really, really great image editing app. I use it a lot of
Cool.
times for quick image edits and whatnot when like I don't want to open up Photoshop and I don't even feel like using something like Affinity. Like I just feel like Acorn is just a great
Acorn
graphic.
launches in like 2 seconds and you're just working. And version
Exactly.
8, the release notes, I read them even though I upgraded, but I use Affinity for most of what I do just because that's where all my templates and everything are. But I read
Right.
the release notes and I mentioned it in my yearly roundup of apps and hardware, which I'll link if anyone wants to see what I've been up to. But I linked it just because the breadth of the release notes was kind of astounding. Like
Totally. Totally.
He made good use of those 3 years and change.
He certainly did. There's like
Good
a new
old Gus.
Gus is fantastic. There's a new live text tool where you can detect and interact with text using your images. I guess that's probably using some of Apple's text AI things, and that's really cool. There's also a support for JPEG XL, which is great because more things are starting to support that, and that's better in some ways, frankly, than HEIC. Who knows if which one will ultimately kind of win out, but that's great. That's one of the things I really like about Acorn too, because like you said, if I have templates in other apps, but if I need to do a quick and dirty, edit of something, or if I need to resize something is the more frequent thing, Acorn is my go-to because it's just so fast. It's as
Have
fast as
you
Preview, but it's better.
have you used RetroBatch?
I have. I have.
I love RetroBatch.
Retro Batch is
I
awesome. Retro Batch is
all of my
fantastic.
all of my Dimspirations, I publish them as square images on the website, but every one of them has iPhone and macOS wallpaper versions, and they are all made from a single file, like a template that I created in Affinity, and then I save it and I tag it with .dim, and RetroBatch picks it up, creates all the versions, all the formats like WebP and JPEG, and outputs it to a directory where Hazel picks it up, zips it, and adds it to the website. And RetroBatch, if you do the same thing, if you do the same resizing or the same cropping or the same watermarking multiple times, or with a whole batch of images, RetroBatch from the same guy. That's why I bring it up.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Um,
actually, and I didn't realize this because I think I have the older version of Retro Batch, and I should have bought the bundle. Maybe I can email him. Maybe he'll let me buy it
oh, I'm
post
sure.
hoc. But if you buy right now, Acorn 8 is $20. It's usually 30, and Retro Batch Pro 2 is $40. And Retro Batch 2 is $20. But if you buy them together, it's $30 for Acorn 8 and Retro Batch 2, and it's $44 for Acorn 8 and Retro Batch Pro 2. So
Yeah.
you save a significant amount if you bundle them together. So just pointing that out to people if you're interested in those things.
Oh man, I should. So I've been running these giveaways for over a year now. I give away software licenses every week, and I don't think I've ever contacted Gus about doing
You
a
should.
giveaway. Yeah, that would be awesome. Because right now we're getting to a point where some of the first ones that I did, people have requested another chance to win them. So it's coming around, and I'm just cycling. Starting in about 3 weeks, I will be re-giving away some of the first ones on the list.
That's awesome.
I did a poll on my forum and asked people which ones would you add or which ones do you want another chance at? And I contacted all of the developers again, and everyone's like, sure, no problem. And I don't know financially how good the giveaways end up being for the developers. And honestly, every giveaway at this point nets me maybe 10, 15 people for my mailing list, which I don't make any money from anyway. So it's just a fun thing to
Well,
do.
no, it's just a fun thing to do. Look, we like apps. That's one of the reasons why we have gratitude. Like
Yes.
we are app fans. We like to buy apps. We like to promote apps, especially indie apps. Although they don't have to be. We've covered plenty of non-indie apps before too. A good app is a good app. And I feel like app discovery, it should be one of those things that should be easier. It's not.
Yeah.
And
Well,
because it's
there
so
was
so
there was an
ruined.
era where, blogs like Tua
Mm-hmm.
and blogs like mine were the source. That's where you found out about cool new apps. And I don't know what is going on, but my blog traffic just continually dwindles. And I blame social media. I blame a shift in how people access the web. But even my RSS feed has gone from about 60,000 subscribers to 18,000 subscribers over the course of a couple years. And it just keeps dwindling, even though I'm putting out the same stuff at the same rate and I get the same amount of feedback and
Right.
interaction. And just people are disappearing. I've stopped selling ads. Like
Yeah.
the
I think
traffic is a third to a quarter of what it used to be.
I think the problem you're probably running into, and this happens with a lot of people, and I struggle with this myself, and so I have to like think about things, especially as I'd like to, for New Year, I definitely want to like relaunch my personal site and maybe do a newsletter or something. Is and this is the hard part because like we did this work before and we know how, and it's just exhausting to even think about. But it's like your problem is you have like a really great existing like target base of like like readership, but how do you grow beyond that? Like, right? Because I think that's the thing is that, there are people who would really like the stuff you put out who don't know who you are and don't know about it. And so like finding those people is hard. And like that's where unfortunately social media, it both plays a role in, deteriorating, maybe even some existing users or whatnot, but also like it's kind of the only way in some cases to kind of maybe
Well, I
find a
mean,
new audience.
if you search for any of the topics I blog about, I show up on the first page of Google and DuckDuckGo. Like I have great search engine ranking. My discoverability should be better than it is, but I don't know. I'm getting old. I'm letting it go. I'm focusing my energies in other areas. Like I've never made that much money from podcasting or blogging, or it's always been like a labor of love for me.
Totally.
So
Speaking of past gratitudes and also just things to put out there because we mentioned it. I think I mentioned it the last one I was on. Ghosty, the new terminal is officially out for everybody. So if that was something people were interested in trying out, but didn't want to deal with the joining the Discord and getting into the invite list, Ghosty, that's two T's, ghosty.org, if you're looking for another terminal emulator, is available now, and it's pretty good.
you know what I've gotten into? iTerm has a Tmux mode,
Yeah,
which like turns Tmux into native Windows. And it's not, there are a lot of things you can do in the Tmux emulator that you can't do in Tmux mode. But for just like popping up a couple of panes that are SSH, connected to, say, when I'm working on my couch and I want to connect to my studio in my office, I can just type a shortcut and pop up two panes in two different directories on the host machine and navigate them, like just being able to command square bracket to like switch panes, which
hmm
in Tmux would be like leader J, and I like it. I like it. I have so much trouble. I'm so into iTerm. I have trouble enjoying other terminals. They just take a lot of work. I just got an M4 MacBook Pro,
Oh, are you liking
which
it?
is it's amazing. Um, and I went through, all the setup on it, which all my brew files and everything were made it pretty easy. But I immediately, within 2 weeks of getting it, dropped a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on the keyboard. So now my space bar and the N key require forceful, like I have to hammer them.
You got Apple
Um,
Care, right?
I have Apple Care Plus. I'm going to take it to, like, I live in a small town. The nearest authorized service is 30 minutes away, which is where I'm going to go. To get to an actual Apple store is over 2 hours away. And if I want to send it in, they're going to format my hard drive
Right,
as part of repair.
right.
And I just find that very depressing, even if I back the whole thing up. But I'm gonna get the keyboard, repaired. But I'm so I'm such a fucking klutz.
I mean, it happens to all of
I
us.
shouldn't be allowed to have jelly, honey, popsicles, any of that stuff around my computers.
Yeah.
I ruin everything. If it's not that, it's cat hair everywhere. I'm bad for computers.
Um,
That's the title of this
I'm
episode.
bad for computers. Fred is bad for computers. Yeah, that is the title. Well, I'm glad you like the new machines. The performance looks great. Like I spent so much money on my M3 Max last year, which frankly I regret now. It's a great machine, but I wish I would have stayed with my M1 Max for an extra year and
Ye-
then upgraded to the M4 Max. I feel like that would have been more bang for my buck. But I got my mom an M3 MacBook Air for Christmas because Best Buy had an insane sale. It was like $850 for the 16
Yeah.
gig version, and I was like, done.
I
Like
got
she
I
would have
got
been fine
my
with the M2.
partner's sister an Air for Christmas.
Yeah, she would have been fine with the M2, but I didn't like that it had the slower storage, even though she wouldn't have noticed. I would have, and so I was just like,
Mhm.
"It's $100. It's my mom."
Oh, you wanna know what I
But
fucked up? Okay, I have 2 things.
sure.
First of all, is there gonna be an M4 Studio?
I hope so, because if there is,
'Cause
then because I kinda wanna buy a base Mac Mini, but
yeah, yeah,
but
the benchmarks on those M4 Mac Minis are
they're
a
insane.
base Mac Mini is a great machine.
Yeah, and that's the only one I would buy because of how much they maybe I'd upgrade the storage, but I wouldn't upgrade anything else just because, like, what they want for the pricing, I'm like, fuck you." But if there's a studio, then I'm in. So I'm, like,
Mhm.
waiting a few months before I buy a Mac Mini. The only reason I'm waiting is not a money thing. I'm just like, I don't wanna drop $500 and then be like, I have to give that to somebody, you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather, like,
Yeah. So,
just get
here's what
the
I fucked
studio.
up.
What did he fuck up?
I bought this M4, machine, and it showed up, and I was immediately impressed by it, and then realized I had a 256 gigabyte hard drive,
Ah,
when I thought I had 2 terabytes. And, um, so I was stubborn. I should have sent it back
yeah,
and reordered with a bigger drive, but I was stubborn and I was like, I'm going to make this work. So, like, my desktop and my documents or whatever are on iCloud, and I'm constantly shifting projects off onto my Synology or to an external SSD. And it's a pain, but like, I'm operating with, like, maybe 50 gigs free right
yeah,
now,
yeah.
and it it's it's not slowing it down, like, it's doing fine, and I'm not getting any, lag or warnings from it, but it is kind of I appreciate the challenge of trying to make do with 256
It's
gigabytes.
hard, it's hard. No, so I was interested because I transferred my mom's. So I got her a MacBook Air in 2018, one of the Retina MacBook Air, the first Retina MacBook Air, and it was like the rebirth of the MacBook Air, and I was like, "Yay, they care again." And then it was like one of those Intel chips, and it sucked, and it
Mm,
had 8 gigs of RAM, and I did pay the extra $200 in 2018 to get her 256 gigs of storage because her 2010 MacBook Pro had a 250
112.
gigabyte. No, it had a 250 gigabyte HD drive because it was, from
Yeah.
2010. And so when I was like, "She might be okay with 128, but I don't feel comfortable with that, so we're doing 256." So I transfer everything over, and she had, like, 50 gigabytes free the way that it was working and stuff, but I was like, "I don't feel comfortable with you only having 50 gigabytes." And so I did the optimize your library and other stuff. And then, like, I backed everything up on one of my drives just in case. And, like, turned out there was like an old iPhoto library that was still there and some other,
Mhm.
like, there, because this was like, basically, because when I got her the new computer, I did the same thing, I did this time where I transferred everything over. So, like, there were still some, like, I was seeing some download files and for some things from, like, literally, like, 2010, 2011. I'm like, "Okay, we can get rid of this stuff." But, and so I was able to, like, free up enough space, and for the ways that she uses stuff, it'll be fine. But even for my mom, who, like, is a light user, doesn't have anything other than really stuff that's basically stored in iCloud, like photos and stuff like that, like, I could see it being full very quickly, which to me, I'm like, all right, thank you, Apple Intelligence. The one good thing you've done is you've forced Apple to give 16 gigs as standard on all their machines now. But, like, 256 storage is, like, not enough the way that Apple does it. Like, it would be one thing if, the way macOS works, they now require that all the cloud storage stuff be stored, like, locally in kind of a cache that you kind of can't free
Mhm.
anything with. And so you can't even do the thing that you used to be able to do where it kind of would be like what Dropbox did, where it would be kind of like, okay, the file is
Cloud
here, but it's
only storage,
right.
yeah.
And you could see that, and it kind of works, but it really kind of doesn't. And so it's just one of those things where it's like managing, especially if you have a lot of iCloud stuff, like managing, like you have to do what you're doing, where you're having to constantly switch stuff between your Synology and other drives, and, like, moving back
Right.
and forth between
Well,
folders, and, like,
and the operating system takes into account purgeable space.
yeah,
So it won't it won't freak out because at any given time I have 70 to 100 gigabytes on this machine purgeable.
Right.
And because everything is mostly cloud storage, but like you said, there's like shadow copies of everything. And my whole Dropbox at this point is mostly cloud only, and I just download what I need at any given time. It'll really Terminal does not do like on in Finder or any like regular app, if it tries to access a file that's not downloaded, it recognizes that and downloads it. Except for like backup programs that freak out because a file says it's there, but then it's not. But in Terminal, like you try to like compile a project, not realizing that it's currently in
Right.
iCloud, and it freaks out. And yeah, I've gotten myself into a few pickles with iCloud because I keep my code projects are on my desktop. Not there. I have a code folder on my desktop, and it's a bad habit, and it should be in my home directory. But I just got used to it, and all of my paths, like when I go
Hmm.
between machines, I want everything in the same place, and
Fair.
moving it sucks, and symlinking it doesn't work. And so anyway, like once I started having my desktop on iCloud, it meant my code projects always had some chance of not existing. So I have gotten myself in trouble a few times, but I figured it out. I've got it's working. I can do this.
But that's wild
I
though.
will
Like
get a 2 terabyte machine someday, but
someday, yeah. I was gonna say like I my work machine is only 512, and it's for the most part it's fine. But I do run into things occasionally, especially sometimes with like video projects, where I'm like,
mhm.
okay, I'm really glad that I have, more than that. And on I got 1 terabyte on my M1 Max, and I realized pretty quickly, I was like, that's okay. But like when I got the that was one of the things that, was an expensive part of getting the M3 Max was that I was like, okay, you cheaped out last time because you didn't want to pay their crime like storage prices, but you're going to have to go ahead and get 2 terabytes this time. And I did. And I think for me, that's what I have on my iMac, which at this point is more than
Yeah,
4 years old.
that's the right amount of
I
storage
feel
for
like
me.
that's about right? Because like you,
Yeah.
I have a Synology and I have external drives and I can do other things. I feel like 2 terabytes is the right place.
So I
But
have an M4 Express from OWC with 16 terabytes of NVMe SSD storage in it.
16,
And
wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now that you can get larger NVMe SSDs, I tricked it out. So no, I'm sorry. I have two of those with 8 each.
Okay.
Um, and 2468. Yeah, two terabyte. Anyway, I can plug that into a Thunderbolt. What are you, 4? Is that
Yeah.
where we're on now?
Yeah. For
Thunderbolt 4 port.
you might have 5 on the M4, but yeah.
Oh yeah, probably. But
But the stuff isn't
the
out yet.
Express, the OWC Express, I think is an
The Thunderbolt 4. Yeah.
Thunderbolt 4. But with that plugged in, I can get speeds almost as good as an onboard
Yeah.
SSD. I can get like 1,000 megabits per second
Yeah, which is
transfer,
fantastic. Which is
read and
fantastic.
write. Yeah. Um, anyhow, we're well over time. It's been really good to catch up with you.
Likewise.
I'm gonna see Jeff next week. It's his 50th birthday.
Amazing. Please
And I'm
FaceTime me or like send me photos or whatever because that's
yeah,
amazing.
I can't drive right now. I'm too dizzy all the time. So I'm taking a train up to Minneapolis and showing up for his birthday party.
Amazing.
I get to spend a night at the Indigo Hotel in Minneapolis and then take a train back. They just added a train route from Winona to Minneapolis,
Oh, that's awesome.
and I can go directly there. It takes almost the exact same amount of time as driving. It takes 2 hours on the train, and a business class ticket is like $50. And yeah, it's super cool. So anyway, I'll see Jeff next week. Hopefully, our next recording will be all three of us. We'll see if we can pull it off.
Yeah, we'll do our best, but that's awesome. Please, what day is Jeff's birthday?
Well, the party is on Saturday next
Okay.
week.
Okay.
Um, And then I'm back in Minneapolis for Robert Burns' dinner the week after. Lots of fun stuff. Anyhow, good to see you.
Good to see you. Get some sleep.
Get some sleep.
The system is going down now.